In this video, we'll learn to use Array Outline. To begin, I'm going to select my browser tab and double click on some artwork to quickly create the embroidery design. And I'll select the heart in the center, and notice right away that the heart has simply embroidery fill and no outline currently. And so if we look at our outline tab in our properties box, and we find that there is an outline option called Array. That's what we're going to learn about today. So when I click on Array, it will open up our object library. This is our clip art library, and in here will be embroidery designs or embroidery elements that we have saved, and these are of course the ones that come with our software. And so now you get to scroll through to browse to find the artwork that you would like to use, and when you select something, notice the green line that shows me the orientation of the clip art. So that when I choose insert for this bow, and now I need to click and drag, and when I click and drag, I'm going to be setting the size of the bow along that line. So how big do you want the bow to be in relationship to your design? And then what direction do you want the bow to be sitting along your line? Does that make sense? So if I select right here, it will place the bow along the line, sitting along the horizon as I place it along the shape of this heart. And so it actually turns around the shape like that. And that is called an array outline. And it's possible to use array outline not only with the shapes from our clip art library, but even with a shape that we just create ourselves. So let me undo and show you exactly what I'm saying. If I use my shapes tool and draw a star shape, a little star like this. Now I have used my select tool. I have the star shape selected. Now I'm going to hold the shift key down and click on the heart shape. And see how I have both shapes selected? Now I'm going to click on the array outline tool, and notice that it takes the star shape and repeats it around the heart in an array. And so when you use an array outline, you have parameters that you can use to control things like the offset or the item rotation. So right now, if I use the stars are set along my line. If I rotate the item, let me just type in 25, enter, it rotates the stars by degrees along that line. You can also control the spacing between the stars. So if I type in here perhaps 1 millimeter spacing, then it will push the stars apart and therefore place less stars along the shape. And you can offset your shape. So if you wanted the stars to be inside of a shape or outside of a shape, you can add a distance here. So if I type 2 millimeter offset, it will move the stars outside of my shape by 2 millimeters. And so that is the array outline, and how you can use array outline either with our clip art library or with a shape that you select. I need to add one more thing about working with the array outline tool, and that is when you have an array and your object is placed around that shape, you can select it at any time and adjust the parameters and update the way that those objects are placed. So example, if I change the spacing from 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters, it places less space, therefore more stars, etc. So if I go to 0, less space, more stars. If I want to make minute specific changes to the locations of these stars, I have the ability to use separate to objects. And when I use separate to objects, my shapes are no longer in an array outline. They become individual shapes of their own. So watch what happens when I click separate to objects. Now those objects are no longer an array. Now they are grouped together. And so I'm going to right click and choose to ungroup them. And that way I could select one specific star and make, a change to its size or its location independently of the other stars. And so that is the reason that you may wish at times to use separate to shapes with an array outline. Just remember, when you separate to shapes after using an array, it is no longer an array, and we could no longer, for example, change the parameters for the spacing between the stars. So that is my video for the array outline.